Hey you guys, what's going on? It's Jason from the RC Cave. Thanks for watching. In this video, I'm going to show you how I did a real simple flame design on my 1/8 scale RC buggy. This is a team associated RC 8.2E, but the same technique would work with any Lexan RC body out there. Now, before we get started, the first thing I have to say is that this is not a real advanced airbrushing tutorial. What I'm trying to do here is to show you a real simple and easy technique to get a pretty cool effect on your RC body. Remember, the emphasis is on simple and easy. So let me bring you in and show you how I did this. I use Parma Faskolor paints. I really like them. They work real well and they're pretty inexpensive. I use Hobbico Master Mask. You can also use Parma Liquid Mask, or Bob Dively makes a liquid mask that's supposed to be real good. A couple of hobby knives with either a real sharp blade or a brand new blade, preferably, to score that liquid mask. Little fine grit sandpaper. I'll show you what I did with that in just a second. Lexan specific scissors and a body reamer. These are indispensable. They're real inexpensive. Make sure you get a pair of these if you don't have them already. For my compressor and airbrush, I just picked up a cheap one off of Amazon. This is a Master brand compressor and airbrush. My feeling is the cheap airbrush is probably fine, but the cheap compressor is really just not that nice to use. I don't think it has enough PSI, so I would not recommend this. I would recommend a better quality compressor, but these are the basic materials to get this job done. Now, the first thing I do is trim the body and test fit it onto the vehicle. Now, I know some people prefer to paint first and trim later. I like to trim first because I'm always afraid I'm going to damage my new paint job when I do the trimming and make the holes for the body post. So that's just what I do. I also sand down the edges a little bit after trimming, especially around any corners or cutouts. It's not really necessary, but I like to have those edges all nice and smooth. After trimming, I wash out the body with a little dish soap to make sure it's nice and clean. The next step is to brush on the liquid mask. Now, some people spray it on with the airbrush. I think a paintbrush is just easier and faster. You want it nice and thick to make sure you'll be able to peel it off later, so you need several coats. I find that 3 or 4 is about right. Now, the liquid mask is white when it goes on. It sort of looks like glue or something, but it does turn clear as it dries. The next step is to plan your design. You can just buy some vinyl masks online that would make this process a little bit easier, but I like to draw out my design on the body with permanent marker because that way I can be sure that my design fits the shape and size of the body perfectly. Once you have your design drawn onto the body, you score the liquid mask from the inside with a hobby knife. You want to use a super sharp blade for this, preferably a brand new blade. And I actually found that the rounded scalpel blades make it a little bit easier to cut inside some of those awkward corners. Once you've scored the liquid mask with the hobby knife, it should peel right off. After that, I like to clean off my marker with some nail polish remover so I can see the design and make sure that it's nice and clean and ready to be painted up. At this point, you can see that we've got a nice, simple, clean design here, and we're all ready for the paint. I started my painting by adding a little bit of red to the tips of my flames and fading inwards. It wasn't so obvious in the bottle, but this fluorescent red that I had was a little brighter and pinker than I was expecting. Next, I added some orange over the red, fading it out towards the front of the car. After the orange, I added the yellow, which faded into the orange very nicely. At this point, the basic flame is painted. Although I wasn't completely happy with how bright that red came out, it was almost pink. So I backed the tips of the flame again with just a little bit of black, and that darkened them up a little bit, giving me something closer to purple rather than pink. After that, I backed my design with white to brighten up the yellows and oranges and to give it a little bit of pop. So now that my basic flame design is on, I peeled off the remaining liquid mask, leaving just a nice clean flame on the body. Now you can see why I love using liquid mask. It leaves you with these nice clean lines with no bleeding at all. It's great stuff to work with. For my backing color, I went with solid silver to make the flame design stand out as much as possible. After the silver, I did another coat of white, which should make that silver pop a little bit. I really like these bright colors and color contrast on my racing RCs. I think it makes them a lot easier to see when they're flying around the track. After that, I took the window masks off and I put 2 coats of Parma Fast Tint on the windows, which I think is a nice touch. To complete my paint job here, I put on a few coats of Parma Clear Coat, which gives the paint another layer of protection and a little bit of waterproofing. I think it helps make it last a little longer. My final touch was to reinforce the body mounts with some scraps of Lexan and shoe goo. I always end up reinforcing my bodies later on anyway, so I found it's better to do it right now while the paint is brand new, and that way the body will last as long as possible and it'll look good for as long as possible. Okay, now for the best part of the project. I love peeling that protective film off of a new body. You get used to looking at your new paint through that protective film and it makes it look kind of dull, but once you pull that film back, the new paint just jumps out at you. It's really nice. So that's it for my new body. I ended up with a very clean and simple design here that was super fast and easy to do, and it should be very easy to replicate or to build on if anyone is interested in doing something similar. Alright you guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'd really appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button, and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.